Welcome to Secrets to Alignment with Savannah Schaffer. I am here to equip you with the belief and energy to make your dreams a reality. Take this time to fill your cup and align with the most vibrant version of you. Welcome back to the Secrets to Alignment podcast with your host, Savannah Schaffer. Very happy to be here. Happy Monday. I hope that you guys had a recharging weekend. Mine was definitely super chill and I really needed that, honestly. We had such a lazy Sunday. Got to spend all day pretty much on the couch playing with Arya, watching movies. Today I am talking to you guys all about how to be less sensitive. So this has actually been a topic that has been kind of reoccurring in my life recently. And I guess that recently I've actually noticed the benefits to being less sensitive. And before, I feel like I was a very, very sensitive person. My parents always referred to me as like the instigator, as the one who stirred the pot. I always said my opinion. I always let them know what I was thinking. And it just led to being very reactive to situations. And I carried that for so many years. Now that I am 23, I am realizing that it's actually a skill and kind of a flex to not be so sensitive about everything and be emotional towards everything, because a lot of times people actually want that from you. They want to see your reaction and they want to see you get upset and bothered. And I choose to just laugh at a lot of things and let go of things easily and just not take things so personally. But it's taken me a while to get here. So I want to give you guys some tips and tricks on just like how you can kind of be a little bit more in control of your emotions and show up in an aligned way. So first off, if you're a sensitive person, you're typically really bothered by what other people are saying to you. You maybe are picking up on little things and taking them personally. You're easily upset or emotional whenever situations arise. And to know if this is you, something that you might not be too good at is taking criticism from others. Maybe you notice that you're always overthinking and you think about like the worst case scenario. You start to worry a lot of times. Maybe you notice that you're a little bit of a people pleaser. You're often feeling overwhelmed. So if you notice that you do any of those things, which I think that all of us can probably relate to one or another, I personally can relate to overthinking. Overthinking has been something that I've really gotten a grasp on, but it's taken me quite some time to finally get that into control. So if you notice that you do absolutely any of these, this podcast is going to benefit you massively. So I want to make this very, very clear. I do not want anyone listening to this to take this conversation and think you need to suppress your emotions. That is like the worst thing that you can do after this episode. So please do not do that. Having emotions is actually incredible. And just knowing how to manage those emotions will help you out in your life in so many different ways. As someone who used to be very easily triggered and extremely reactive to situations, I noticed that I would typically end up elevating situations to places that it didn't need to be because of how sensitive I was and because of the way that I was taking what someone else was saying. I also dealt with this with criticism as well. So when you can get a grasp on this, you're going to notice that things do not bother you as easily. You're not getting out of alignment as easily. You are able to lessen the amount of times that your feelings are hurt, allowing you to actually live in a more happy and fulfilled life. You also start to have such higher confidence because your self-esteem goes up and so does your emotional control. You'll also notice that your anxiety lowers because you're not taking things so personally. You're not being as sensitive towards this external stimuli. You get to deepen the relationships with everyone around you and connect with them on a whole new level because you're not having as much conflict and you're able to communicate so much more effectively. When you stop being so sensitive, you're also able to make better decisions in a clear headspace. which is extremely important. This also just helps with your own personal growth journey with introspection, starting to turn inwards, and also your emotional intelligence and resiliency. So taking the time to even listen to this podcast right now, it is going to help with all of those things that I just now mentioned. So I want you to really listen closely, take notes if you need to, and if any of these that I go over, you guys have a really strong connection towards, or you feel like you need to prioritize more, please message me. I'd love to hear your feedback, and just know that these tips are supporting you in some way. So like I was saying, it's totally okay to have emotions, but knowing how to go about them will really set you up for success and allow so much more ease in all of your relationships. You would never want your emotions or your feelings to start taking over and making you make decisions that are out of alignment or say things that are out of alignment with your character or integrity. Typically, if you're a sensitive kind of person, you think very, very deeply and you feel very deeply. So I know that I definitely am that way. I'm also very intuitive. So I notice I'm affected by the smallest little things. And it typically really makes me think. If you are like that too, I would 100% recommend journaling. Journaling has been a tool for me for so many years. And just having a space where I can fully express how I'm feeling without someone else saying, you're crazy, why would you think like that? Or just me able to just fully express what I'm overthinking, what I'm feeling, what my perspective is on what is in front of me. It really just helps me get clear on what I'm feeling so that when I go into a conversation with someone or when I'm around someone, I'm not reacting to what's happening. I'm actually fully present in the situation because I've already taken the time to process it. So this really helps, I think, a lot when it comes to big conversations or conflict within your relationships or your friendships. When you can take the time to process what that person had said to you and how it made you upset and why you were sensitive towards it, you're able to effectively communicate that rather than just allowing this emotion to run on its own course and blow up into something that is not at all what it needs to be. So the more that you start to practice this awareness and you really start to get connected with yourself, the easier it will be for you to catch yourself when you're out of alignment. The more that you practice this awareness through journaling or just being mindful of your thoughts, you're able to slow things down and get yourself back to a place of alignment as soon as you're out of alignment. I have noticed that this has been so supportive for me, especially in family dynamics. For example, I just went a couple weeks ago to pick up my daughter from my sister's house. And while I was at her house, she told me that we were going to be leaving for a different time for Disneyland the next morning. And I started to get super worked up about it and was super irritated by this is the plan that I've had set for X amount of weeks. And I started to feel myself get aggressive with her and annoyed and just be fine, it's okay, whatever. And I just started to notice that that's not really a place that I typically get to often at all. I remember I shut the door, got in my car, put Aria in the car, and it was just wow, I'm never really affected by little changes in plans. I'm never really affected by other people's energies that heavily. But I noticed that with family specifically, those can really trigger you. They can get you into a place that maybe you're reverting back to your past self. And that's exactly how I felt in that moment. Now, after I was picking up Aria, I went to go pick up my little sister to hang out with Aria. And as I went to go pick up my little sister, I started to notice that I was feeling all of these feelings that were all coming from the past situation that I had with my sister only 5 minutes prior. And so in that car ride, I decided you know what? This is not me. This is not my energy. This is not how I want my little sister to get into my car. I'm the fun older sister that's always happy and positive, and she doesn't deserve to get into a car with a sister who's all upset and freaking out and annoyed by her other sister and whatever. So I chose in that moment to let go of that energy, to step into my own energy and become the version of myself that I am committed to being. And that is somebody who's in control, who is happy, who vibrates at a high vibrational point. And I didn't want to get out of that alignment. So I really took the time to do that. And that's just a perfect example of when you notice you're out of alignment, the more aware that you are, the quicker you notice it and the easier it is to get back into alignment and get back into the good high vibrational feelings. advice. The next piece of advice that I would give you is to start to minimize some of the conversations that you're having with the people who you notice you're most sensitive around. Now, I don't mean avoid these people completely, because at the end of the day, this person in the situation is always teaching you something, whether that's just to calm down or to actually start controlling your emotions a little bit more. It is important that these people are around us because it teaches us something at every given point. But I will say that when it comes to me being around people who I know that I maybe get a little bit more sensitive around, I typically just pull back a little bit, and I maybe won't give my opinions as frequently. Maybe I won't get into conversations where I know that we differ on opinions. I'll just kind of be a little bit more to myself. And I think that this helps because the more stress that someone is bringing into your life, the more toxicity that someone is bringing into your life, the more frequently you are out of alignment again. And when you're out of alignment, that is where you are not making your dream reality happen. You are not staying in the vibrational space that wealth is at, that abundance is at, that all of the things that you are actually wanting to create for yourself vibrates. So you have to be extremely intentional with this here. Just have awareness whenever you are going into conversations with those people, whenever you're going to go grab dinner with those people, whatever. Have awareness and do not allow yourself to sink into match that lower vibration that person is holding. Now, this one is pretty hard for a lot of people, including myself in the past. This is something that I've done a lot of work on internally about. My advice to you is to stop taking things so personally. If you notice that you start to take things really personally, first off, I would check to see what is actually bugging you. And is there any piece of yourself that possibly believes what that person is saying? So let's say that person is saying like, you're so immature, and it really stings for you massively. I would sit there and I would ask you if you believe that you are also immature. And a lot of times these people are almost pointing out the things that we possibly feel within ourselves, or it's a reflection of how they feel about themselves, and they're pointing it out in you. A lot of times it actually has nothing even to do with us, and it's really just about that person's needs, that person's wants, that person's expectations, and you do not have to conform to anyone else's expectations or opinions, because those opinions are not your own. This is why it's so incredibly important to have a strong sense of self, because the more that you are connected with yourself, the more that you know what you bring to the table, you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses, and you're able to have confidence within every situation, because you know at the end of the day that this is not a you problem, this is a them problem. And that helps out massively. It helps you with detaching from those opinions that that person is sharing or the judgments that that person is giving. What you think about yourself is the most important thing. So getting to know yourself on a level that you maybe never have, and acknowledging all of the things that you do have insecurities about, noticing what brings out sensitivity within you, noticing what you feel extremely confident in. All of these different things are going to allow you to get to know yourself so much easier. Therefore, whenever anyone says anything to you that is not in alignment with what you believe about yourself, you instantly know that that person's opinion is not even valid in this space, and then you don't have to sit there and take it personally. Next, stop jumping to conclusions and thinking that everything is about you. A lot of times it really is just about their own shit, and they're bringing it to you, they're pointing it out in you or whatever, and you have to make that conscious decision not to take that personally. You have to make that conscious decision to understand that they could be dealing with so many other things that have nothing to do with you. For example, let's say somebody cuts you off when you're on the road and you take it so personally, and you're like, why would that person do that to me, blah, blah, blah. Literally anytime that something like that happens, or someone speeds right past me, or they cut me off, or whatever, I always assume the absolute best. I'm like, you know what? That person's probably in labor right now. You know what? That person's probably rushing to their child at school. You know, that person's probably taking care of something that they really need to take care of right now. And I just always assume the best, because I don't have to sit there and waste my energy on thinking the worst. When it comes to people that like you do know, let's say like your family or your friends or acquaintances or people at work, do not give those people that satisfaction of seeing you upset or mad. Choose to allow their opinions and their comments to literally roll off your shoulders, be completely unbothered by it, and show up like the person that you wanted to. Assume that their attitude has simply nothing to do with you. It's all their own, and you don't have to take that on. Taking on energies can be so heavy. It can weigh you down massively. The more that you start to take control of these emotions, the less effect it's going to have on you. It really does all come down to just letting things go. I am somebody who typically just laughs things off. I don't allow things to get to me much because I know that they're really not worth the energy. They're not worth me being super upset about, especially if it's something that I cannot change. This is huge. When you cannot change the situation, why would you sit there and waste your energy, waste all of your emotions on something that is already set in stone and is already dealt with? Yes, of course, I encourage you to express your emotions through journaling or venting or whatever, but do not allow those emotions to consume you for too long, because that's where you start to notice that you can't shake that funk that you're in, you can't get out of that bad slump that you're in, and that's the last thing that any of us need for you. So again, to recap, the more that you get control over your emotions, the less sensitive that you become, and the less that you take things personally, you are going to notice your entire life be affected by this. You're going to be able to live so much happier. You're going to be able to get into alignment so much quicker. You're going to be able to manage your emotions when it comes to the people who are around you, and you will not have to be so reactive and out of alignment so frequently. This is the time to get your ish together. I know that we're also going into holiday season, so I feel like this could be a really good podcast for this time of the year. But I encourage you, again, get in touch with your feelings, but do not take your feelings out on others. Continue to get to know yourself on such a deep level, and I promise you, you are going to feel so much more in alignment from that. Okay, all right, I will talk to you guys soon. I am sending you so much love, clarity, and abundance, and I will see you next Monday.